Welcome to the Infinite and Beyond MIT Alumni Show. And of course, we always have a special guest with us today. Edwin Suarez is here with us. He's the Chief Digital and Transformation Officer at CoVolt Power. Edwin, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Rob. As you can see, I'm wearing the official MIT t-shirt for our conversation today.
That's right. We're always repping the brand, right? So Edwin, before we get rolling here, can you tell us a little bit about you? You're an MIT Sloan graduate. Can you tell us about your journey to MIT and then what you've been up to since?
So first of all, I'm a Colombian immigrant into the U.S. I'm a father of two and a husband of marine biologist turned artist. Very proud MIT alumni. I actually I hold 2 degrees, master's degree from MIT. One is in engineering and management from Sloan, but it's a hybrid program with the School of Engineering. And then I have the MBA or the MBA. Apparently, there is no such a thing as an MBA. It's actually the MBA degree from Sloan 2023.
And since you've graduated, what have you been up to?
Well, so I actually pivoted jobs during the program, during the MBA, right? So I went and make a change. Actually, it wasn't planned. It was an unplanned change, which made the whole program a little bit harder for me. But I spent a couple of years in private equity, and it really wasn't a good fit for me, and ended up doing some consulting for a little bit of time, kind of trying it out. I always wanted to try out the whole fractional concept. I did that for a little bit less than 2 years, and then late last year, I joined CoVolt Power, formerly known as Signal Energy. So my current role, you really attracted a super high speed and intense growth driven by AI and the need of power, the demand for power in across industries. And that's something that I haven't been part of in a very long time. So decided that, why not? Let's do that. And I can always come back to do fractional work later on if I wanted to, which has its own challenges. But it was a really, really cool experience. So that's kind of what I've been doing since graduation, along with, trying to get more connected to the MIT Sloan alumni network and see how I can actually give back to the MIT community.
Amazing. And so how do you want to give back to the MIT community? That's one of the big reasons for the show.
So, no, and it's a really good question because it's not, I don't think it's an easy one, right? It's like, what can you give back to the organization that has it all? So a couple of things. I actually volunteer as the MIT Sloan ambassador for Houston, right? Which is a very long name for just arranging opportunities for people to meet up and keep up, keep up the rhythm, right? I mean, when you're in school and you're in the program, you see each other every 2 weeks, but then you graduate and poof, goes away. I can't speak for the other programs, but MBAs seem to be a very special type of people. Yes, we are all busy, but sometimes that becomes kind of a little bit of an excuse, right? So how do we build that kind of forcing function to drive that, to keep that connection, right? Besides WhatsApp, as you know, we love WhatsApp. So that's one way. The other way is, and actually I'm having that conversation this coming Monday, like serve as a hosting company for projects, right? Like one of the classes, Go Lab or one of those. So it's a win-win, right? For the organization as well as for the Sloan program. But I think it's more for the Sloan program because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to create that opportunity to meet, and who knows what's happening out of there, right? I mean, there might be job opportunities, there might be connections. I do my best to also try to bring talent into the organization. It's just nowadays that sounds like a harder thing to do. And then the other way that I think I give back is just by just being there for people, right? I mean, again, finding jobs is sometimes difficult, especially like Sloan fellows, right? Because they have to stop work, take a year off to go to school, and then come back. I mean, that's a difficult transition to do, especially at that level of their career. So serving as that point of connection is also very, very useful. And I enjoy it a lot. And the last thing, very small, but I also do is I actually connect to the newly accepted MBAs. So, whenever somebody has a question like about the program and all that anxiety that you build up before you join, right? So I'm kind of that funnel, like chill, everything's going to be okay.
The anxiety starts when you get on campus, and then for me it was after the first round of midterms, and then it was real bad.
I've told you this, right? So a lot of people ask me, like, how does it feel to go to MIT? And the first time I went, because that was actually I have to move to Boston for my first degree. It was a very humbling experience, right? Because you go in, especially as an engineer, right? You're like, I'm the smartest person in the room, and you go into the room and you're like, there's 140 people smarter than me. It is very humbling, right? One of my colleagues at that master's degree, I mean, again, it's engineering and management. Keep that in mind. He's actually a doctor, an MD, and the guy aced everything, right? It's like, how did you do that? Right? You're a doctor. You're never taken any engineering classes. How did that's the only logical explanation is that you're just really smart. And he was also like awesome. He is an awesome dude too. So it's like, yep, it was a very humbling experience. But obviously anxiety comes along, and it's always like, hey, do I belong here? Is that what's the name? The imposter syndrome thing?
Imposter syndrome, yeah.
Which is very normal, right? But I think you quickly realize that we are all in the same boat at the end of the day. Yeah, some of us are older than others, and so on and so forth. But yeah, so I think I want to help some of those newbies, right, going into the program. Like, don't worry, everything will be fine. Here's what I learned about it. But I think everybody has to find their own path at the end of the day.
100%. Yeah, it's funny, Edwin. So a lot of my work now, working with founders and executives, is based around imposter syndrome. So like the statistic is 77% of executives have imposter syndrome. And so it's like something that I work with a lot with my clients. But as someone who tries to host an MIT podcast, I would say 95% of folks who went to MIT have developed imposter syndrome, because we all got there and then we thought we were smart until we were there, and then we thought, who are we and why do we belong? But I do think you're right. It's like you have to find out like who's your crew, and then adjust to the workload, and then you start finding your groove. And for me it took about a year and a half, and then I started figuring it out. But a lot of that was, I mean, the fraternity I was in and playing water polo and stuff like really helped a lot. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And look, when I was in the program, I didn't know at the time, right? But I was actually going to this kind of dark, and I even hate to use the word depression, but that's what it was, right? Because of everything that was going on around the world, right? We just came out of COVID towards the end of that, right? And working alone, right, at home for all that time, and I was having all these frustrations about career, I guess midlife crisis kind of thing, I guess. and then on top of it, you put MIT on top of it, right? Which just physically, you're traveling every other week, you're doing homework at night, so you're taking time away from your family to do some of those things. So it's a stressful time. So, and on top of it, you put all those negative thoughts into your head. It makes it very hard. So I think, to your point earlier, I think there is no, I mean, I don't find it strange that we all go through that, because it is it is a period of change, and change comes with some of that, how's it called? Is the Hercules trails, or, basically you have to go through all that really hard, difficult moments in order to come out at the end with a new version of yourself, right? You gotta break all those bad things and all those negative thoughts, and it takes time too, right? It's not like you snap your fingers and the next day you wake up and you're a new version. It doesn't work like that.
I was talking to one of my founders yesterday about this. Is he's really doing a huge restructuring of his business, and of course that comes with a lot of internal struggle and pressure. And I said the same thing, is like, you have to die to be reborn. And it's really why I put the phoenix on the cover of my book, is it's that burning the things that you're not to become next. And so there is that pain and that struggle, but then on the other side of that is when you can start to fly. And so it's always a fun process to work with folks through, but it's definitely challenging.
It is. It is, and I think that's the other thing that was a huge lesson learned for me coming out of MIT and going into the role that I have today is being intelligent or super smart or whatever word you want to use is certainly kind of a ticket of entrance for what we do and to go to MIT and everything, but it's not it's not enough, right? Is you gotta have the right mindset. You gotta be able to work with your peers. You know, the whole executive presence, the ability to connect, the ability to really plug into the executive team. All those things actually are probably more important, right? You can outsource intelligence a little bit now to AI, and it will give you what 80% or 70% of whatever number is that you need to get to where you need to get. And I think that's a significant lesson learned to me as well. You know, again, as an engineer, as somebody who comes from a technical career path where, you know, intelligence or feeling like you're one of the smartest person in the room, and that's how you get measured value when you're around technical people. I believe, you know, coming up with the solutions to problems and the best solution, the more elegant and all that sort of thing. That's not necessarily how you get measured and how you create value once you are in a leadership executive position, right? It kind of changes the tables a little bit, and adjusting to that takes time, right? And that's why you go through all these different jobs, different experiences to build up for that moment. And you're never really ready, right? It's like being a parent, right? You're never ready for it. You're never going to be perfect. You just have to roll with the punches and keep learning as you go.
100%. There's no perfection in leadership, and what you mentioned is absolutely true. So Daniel Goleman has a quote in his book Emotional Intelligence, and he says that 95% of what separates high achievers from their peers is emotional intelligence. And like basically once you get to a certain level, IQ is just table stakes for the role. And I think that's what you're saying. And maybe off of that, Edwin, like a huge portion of what you do in your career is digital transformation and technology. Like, given that, I think McKinsey and Bain report that like 80% of digital transformations fail. Like, what makes them succeed?
So when you do to answer your question, I want to step back a little bit to like talk about what digital transformation is, right? Because there is all this incorrect belief that is about technology because of the digital word, right? Look at the second word, transformation. So what does that mean? Transformation typically implies that you're making a significant amount of change or changes across the organization, right? So when you put all that together, it's really about people, process, and technology in that order, right? You can swap business and process, but technology, it goes at the end, right? Technology is an enabler, right? To do what you want to do, either create more revenue or reduce costs, right? Those are the two levers that you have. And the reason why they succeed, which the negative way to see it, the other side of that coin is why they fail, is because there is an awareness that you need those two other components. It's not just about technology, right? So you got to think about the people, the talent. Who do you have leading it? Who do you have it? Who's executing? Do we have the right capabilities? Yada, yada, yada. And then on the process perspective, it's like, how are we going to enable the outcomes that we want? How is everything that we're doing linked to that? How are we going to drive change management towards the people and the processes, right? And then, yes, then technology comes in. Nowadays, I will say that technology and processes are merging, or they are very, very close to the hip, because you don't, unless you're a tech company, you don't really want to be building software all the time. And I know AI is changing that, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. You know, when you work in a big company and you invested millions of dollars in implementing SAP, for instance, or Salesforce.com or Oracle, whatever, pick your enterprise system. Getting out of that is very expensive, right? So you're probably not going to build your own ERP. Now, you should be asking those vendors to use AI to accelerate the time to market and reduce costs. I'm doing that to my vendors, but I'm digressing a little bit. to your earlier comment is that realization that is because, again, you need people, process, technology as a whole, which makes it very, very difficult. Very, very difficult, right? In theory, for instance, just to give another example, in theory, in order sometimes to achieve the outcomes that you want, you have to start from scratch, like rebuild all your processes, right? To really, really like eliminate the legacy and use technology at the best. But doing that is extremely challenging, right? Just effort wise, technology wise, but then also people wise. Like, this is the way we've been doing things for 20 years. Why are we going to change it? And implies changing the behavior of how people do their work. And again, all those things are very challenging to do. It sounds like easy. I mean, conceptually they are, but the execution is really the hard place. And that's the lesson learned that I've taken. And that's the reason when I think about transformation and all stuff is you cannot separate those three things anymore. And it's a team effort. There is no superhero, you know. As a matter of fact, I don't have data for this, Rob, but it's anecdotal that most people that go into this type of role, like digital transformation or innovation, those are short-lived roles, right? It's not like you stay there for 10 years and doing that. No, I mean, if you're lucky, they will move you, but if you're not, you stay there 2 to 3 years and then you move on because the organization cannot absorb all that change in a short amount of time. It needs time, the organization. I think there's a Harvard business case that talks about like 8 years for large corporations to assimilate change. Or the other potential outcome is, you get tired. It's like, I'm trying to push, this rock up, up the hill. I've been doing it for 3 years. I want to go and do something different. Or the other potential outcome is the antibodies of the organization raise up against you, right? And this is where, back to your earlier comment, emotional intelligence, politics, also organizational dynamics, I think is the technical word from MIT, come into place, right? So it's hard. It's hard to do. But if you're able to execute on some of those things, you should start seeing some outcomes and some benefits that are going to affect positively financially and otherwise the enterprise.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, Edwin, the big thing that you mentioned, right, is the people and processes part. I think a lot of folks that get into digital transformation or just the tech side, they lead with the technology and then they try to squeeze in the processes or the people afterwards. And that's where you're getting that lack of success, is what you mentioned, is people push back when you're trying to change what they do. And there's a lot of neuroscience around why that happens. But I think if we start to think about it the other way first, then we can start to find softwares that fit your organization. And that's where folks can really add value.
Oh, absolutely. And again, technology sometimes is actually the easy piece, right? You can use, again, AI, OpenAI, Claude, whatever, to do a lot of vendor selection, for instance, right? But you need to give it what are the needs, and the needs come from people and processes, right? Again, it's very easy. It would be much easier if you were starting from scratch, right? And say, oh, I don't have anything. What do I do? Well, yeah, that would be a little bit easier because you don't have the legacy to deal with, right? But most organizations are not in that place, right? At least large, right? I mean, smaller probably. Depends on what you do. And that's the other thing that some of the other elements to this is, especially nowadays with all the social media and the availability of information, is that sometimes people hear, oh, we did this and it worked so well and it was perfect and it just only took 3 months, and you think, oh, I'm going to adapt that to my company and it's going to have the same results. Well, I have news for you. That seldom happens, and part of the reason is people and processes. It's not the same, right? I mean, in GE we have this idea of best practice sharing, right? That was kind of the principles of being in GE, is that you could share best practices from different businesses. Now that worked because even though we were different businesses, there was a lot of similarities. We were all manufacturing. We were all building big assets, either a locomotive or an airplane engine. So there's a lot of similarities, right? So bringing a best practice from here to here, 80% of it will actually work, right? And by the way, it wasn't 100% of the time. Sometimes there were things that didn't work very well. But just having that ability to pick from like store, almost like a modular reusable component as a process, it was a huge win, right? It will accelerate some of the outcomes. But that's not the case everywhere, right? And certainly not for the smaller companies. So I think people also need to be very critical thinkers when thinking about, oh, can I use that? Can I not use that? Like, for instance, yesterday, Rob, I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal about the solopreneurship growth. And in the US, I think it was actually focused on like the number of solo entrepreneurs is like going crazy because of AI, right? But then what the article doesn't say, and I didn't have the chance to go on look deeper, but it's like, what type of businesses are we talking about? Is it like content creators? And okay, I mean, in that case, yeah, I can see that, right? Because you can use AI to do a lot of the stuff that you do. You outsource some of your accounting. And so, yes, then you can actually do that. But if you're manufacturing or building a solar farm, yeah, you can't do it, right? Yeah, you can automate some of your back-end processes, but nothing is going to happen in the field by AI. Yeah, you still need to hire people to go and do the manual work and so on and so forth.
Although if you want robots for it, there's another MIT startup who's going to come on the show in probably about a month or so that's going to talk about it. But you're 100% right. Is the boots on the ground still needs to happen.
Would love to meet that startup. We've been looking at that in the company. My natural inclination, even though I love technology, is most of those technologies are not ready. Right? I mean, NASA has a technology readiness scale from 1 to 10, right? To measure where that technology is. Most of these technologies, they work great in a lab where everything is perfect. And then you go into the middle of Texas where, you have 120 degrees, super humid, and the ground is not completely flat, or you got rain the day before, and then it's like, oops, right? So I think I certainly want to use more technology in our operations to be able to drive outcomes faster and make it safer for people to do their jobs, right? We want our people to go back home at the end of the shift. At the same time, we got to be realistic, because the cost of using some of those technologies might actually overestimate what we put in, right? And then financially doesn't become a good decision. We I have been only here 9 months, so I haven't had a chance to do a lot of pilots and stuff like that. But I've seen enough in my career to know that it's easier said than done.
Yeah, I still struggle with the AI telling me wrong information already, so I don't want it to make mistakes on my factory floor. Now,
Yeah.
Edwin, I'd love to pivot a little bit and ask a little bit about you. Like, what's your biggest goal, and how can the MIT community support you?
So personally, right now, my biggest goal is to take the current role, the current organization to the next level, right? I want to elevate my team and my function to where it adds value to the clients and to the shareholders and the employees, right? Again, to transform technology into a value-added function. That's what drives me at work. Personally, I think I'm starting to think beyond that, right? Like, I still have a career left, more than a decade, I hope, on my career. So what's that next journey looks like, right? I get bored very easily. So I do have to think about those type of things, just by the nature of who I am. And like I mentioned earlier, the whole fractional thing was very, very fun to do. And also kind of served a lot of that intellectual curiosity that I have, right? That's an area that I want to explore again later on. But also I want to start, like, and I don't want to call it teaching, because I feel like that's not what it is, but at least sharing, giving back the experience that I've had for the next generations to come. Again, AI might make it harder for us, because now all that content is available. But the content has been available for forever, right? I mean, there are books and there are people. So I still believe that human touch still is important. So I think there is something there. I also want to give back to my home country, to the region back in Colombia and the region in some shape or form. I tried creating a couple of businesses back home with the focus of just really giving back and creating opportunities for people. Unfortunately, you and everybody else in the audience knows entrepreneurship is very difficult. It's not something that you do as a side job, really. I mean, and also the commercial implications of the work. You need money, even though that might not be your purpose. You need money to be able to pay, the labor and the services and everything else that you use. So it wasn't as simple as I originally thought. So I'll have to keep exploring that. And again, I think the biggest, to answer your second question of how can the MIT community is continue to pull me in, right? To continue to, because I'm not a natural socializing, person, right? I do like my downtime, my solo time. So I do have to put in a little bit more effort to be able to connect with the people. And that's part of what I do. Some of the things that I also do is just to force myself to get myself out of the comfort zone, which is not that bad, right? It sounds horrible, but no, it's not. So just keep engaging. And there is one guy in my cohort. He built this app that in WhatsApp, and it basically connects you with other people. Yuri Cataldo. So he does runs an algorithm connecting people every week, right? I actually find it fascinating. The challenge has been people making time to talk to you, right? And or yourself. I don't want to blame it on somebody else, but I think the idea is really cool. So really having that opportunity, that space, those connections to explore these ideas a little bit more with people that already done it, I think that would be extremely valuable to me. And I think it wouldn't be only just to me also, because I think that also gives me the opportunity, a little bit of a platform to give back at the same time, right? I mean, networking theory at least says that, right? Like you get what you put in, right? So if you're expecting the MIT or any other network to just give you everything without putting in, you gotta rethink that strategy a little bit.
Yeah, that networking is not that simple.
Nope. There is actually a theory behind it, right? Like I think it's node theory. The mathematical foundation is node theory. I'm actually taking a class right now from Wharton, online course on executive presence and something, persuasive communication or something like that. I might have got that wrong. And one of the sections is about networking, and it basically gives you tips on how to improve your networking and give you some examples of people that are actually really good. But again, I think that you got to find what works for you, where you are in your career, and I think the most important question is asking yourself, where do you want to go, right? And it's hard. I'm not not gonna say it's easy. No, it's really hard, and sticking to it is even harder, right?
Yeah, an exercise I do often really early with clients is like, what is your goal? Like, what do you want to achieve? And then who are the 10 people such that by meeting them, they can help you achieve your goal? That list can be smaller than 10 or greater than 10, but that gives you a more clear picture of like, who do I need to network with? And sometimes it's like somebody, it's like, oh, I need to meet Edwin. Other times it's like, I want to meet business owners that are in San Francisco that are at a company that's this size, right? So it can be super focused or super broad, but then it gives you an idea of like, what rooms do I need to go into? Who do I need to meet? And then how do I start working towards that goal? But you're right. The clarity is the hardest part, right? It's like, what do I actually want to achieve? Because often we think about it as like, well, I just want to be one or two promotions above where I'm at now. And I think that doesn't always take into account like how we feel and where we want to grow to.
Yeah, and the biggest revelation for me is like you think that's what you want, and you get there, and then you're like, shit, this is not really what I was expecting it to be, right? And then you feel still like something is missing, right? And by the way, if you get there, you should be proud of yourself. You accomplished your goal, right? It's just that life, that's what life is about, right? It's this journey of learning and finding out, and then being able to pivot or to do something different or add something different else into your portfolio, right? The concept of portfolio career is something that I'm very curious about. I'm exploring too. Like, what does that even mean? Like I said, I had this innate drive to go and, like, again, let's call it teaching because it's the easiest way to explain it. And I've done it before. And I actually even created a little bit of an outline for a class, like a seminar. And I actually tried to do it in Colombia. I wanted to do it home because I know that the country needs it, right? And I also connected with some people here in the US. And I'm actually talking to some people here at Rice University in Houston. And I don't know if that would be a good fit for me at MIT, but obviously, why not? But finding those avenues is going to be really, really interesting for me. But again, it requires the support from others, to your point. Like, what are the other people that are going to help you get there? I don't have those connections. And it's not like I'm going to go to LinkedIn and apply for every single job that I see for lecturer or whatever, right? I don't think that's the way it's going to work. I mean, we'll see.
You know better than anyone that doesn't work now.
That's the other lesson learned from the networking thing is you should be building those relationships before you need them, right? When you need them, it's too late. And it's a good thing not to think of them transactionally, right? Again, it's about giving in and giving and taking back. And it's just like money, right? You get that you create. So I think if you think about it that way, it's easier to easier to manage because then you can start putting principles of management to it, right? A little bit more scientifically than just thinking about it as this magic thing that is just going to happen because you apply to a job or you went and met somebody online, whatever, right? I think that's a human element, I think, of the formula that sometimes we kind of miss.
100%. Adam Grant's book, I think it's called Give and Take. It's a phenomenal book just on thinking about networking and building relationships because it classifies folks into like givers, takers, and there's matchers, I believe, is the third category. And matchers basically means like it's I do something for you, you do something for me. Givers is just I just give for everything. And then takers is just I take. And actually, in terms of success, the givers who do it from a place of I also know what I want and I'm not afraid to ask for what I need have the highest level of long-term success. And so that's the balance is like giving, but not forgetting your own needs in that giving.
That's interesting. I'm taking mental notes of all the books that you're referring to. So
I'll send you a list after.
Okay. Yeah, I'm making my own list. I'm about to finish my night table book, which, by the way, I certainly recommend. It's called Nexus. Don't ask me for the name of the author because I won't be able to pronounce it correctly. But it is really this historian. He's the guy who wrote Homo Deus and these other very famous books. And he talks about AI, but from a very historical, cultural, people-oriented aspect. And it's fascinating. It's one of those books that you start reading and I have a hard time putting down because it's so interesting. And, it talks about technology, but from the human side perspective. And it's extremely fascinating, how AI, again, it's like a knife, right? I can give you a knife and you can use it either to spread peanut butter in your bread, or you can use it to kill something or somebody, right? Same thing with AI. It has those two qualities. And I think that's what, human.
Amazing. Well, I got to ask you, since I wrote the book Capitalizing on Chaos, with all the chaos in the world, how do we capitalize on it?
That's a great question. I think, people like you can actually help people like me capitalize on it or at least navigate it, right? From my own experience right now, right? So we've been making so many changes in the organization so fast that not everybody is feeling well about it, right? Or safe or focused, right? It's very difficult. And having a little bit of that support is huge, right? Because again, most of the people in my team, for instance, they've never seen this level of discipline and rigor. I basically turn around their world, right? So it's hard. And so we've been doing what we can to provide some of that help and support, which is obviously very challenging for all of us to do as well, because we're basically changing the tires of the car while we're driving at 200 miles an hour. At least that's how it feels. So it's challenging. So I think it's number one. I think number two is using tools like AI to help you. It can eliminate some of the tedious work, right? So you have more time for critical thinking. I think, again, easier said than done. But I'm the amount of stuff that I'm doing with AI right nowadays is significant, right? I go through my credits like nothing because it helps me not in delegating my critical thinking, but in putting together stuff that I don't want to really think about, right? Like yesterday, I did it for help desk tickets, which I shouldn't have to do, but my team is overwhelmed. So fed it to AI and built, a couple of deck slides that just sends the message I wanted to send and then move on, right? So 10 minutes, the thing running in the back and I was doing something else and I still accomplished what I needed to accomplish. So it gives me, again, it's productivity at the end of the day, right? But also giving it to my people so they can actually get some of that productivity gains as well, right? So we're in the middle of doing that too. So I think those are the two tops of my ideas. I think the other one is, and I learned this from our CHRO, from Susie, is leaning in. I think our natural reaction is to like reject it and push back and get anxious and whatever. And what I've learned from her, watching her do what she does, is again leaning in. Is like, okay, the only way through this is through this, right? And so let's go, right? And again, back to your earlier comment is, well, you're gonna have to go through some of the challenges, and you come out of a different person at the end, and it's gonna grow you, right? Either way, either you success or fail, right? One of the quotes I remember with a lot of emotion and I hold very close and dear to my heart was an advice that a former CIO gave me when I was in GE. I was given this big responsibility, more than I was actually ready for, I guess, at the time. And I was taking over who was like my champion, my mentor, the guy that was known for like being one of the best. So I was like, obviously, concerned. And so I make a phone call and I ask, hey, you guys asked me to do this. I'm not, I don't know if I can, right? And she's like, listen, you have two choices here. You go and do it and you're successful and good things will happen. And you go through this and you're not successful and you learn a lot. So I think to me is a point of reference for all these scales, right? It's like, I don't think we have a choice. I think we have to go through it. But we're going to need support from people like you and people like what you do to help us. Because a lot of it is mental, right? A lot of it is this right state of mind. A lot of it is taking a time out to just see the forest instead of the trees type of thing. And again, all these concepts are easy to understand, but go and do it in the middle of it, right? It's very hard. And that's where I think people like you can actually help us and help leaders really drive through that change, right? Through that chaos. I actually value a lot the type of work you do. And people like you that actually it's not just the theory, you've done it, you've been in it, right? You bring the practice and the theory and all the experience and all that sort of thing. I think people like you become very extremely valuable to be able to help us go through that change, that chaos.
That's my goal. And you're right. It's one thing that I've noticed, well, also recently, is there's a lot of people who are trying to, I mean, it's just a general uncertainty with the world. And if you look at the World Uncertainty Index, it's significantly higher, I think around 300% higher than the fall of 2024. And that doesn't even include some of the stuff that's been going on in the Middle East. And so just overall, the world and how we feel is just more anxious. And like of course, I have a therapist as well. So I do recommend that you practice what you preach and you do the internal work so you can show up in the best way possible.
Absolutely. I think we all should have. There's a professor at Rice, extremely good professor and really good guy too. And he actually said we should all have a therapist, right, to help us, manage the internal emotions and everything else. Because again, we are. What was that phrase in one of the classes at MIT? We are human beings are animals that think, emotional beings that think, right? It's not the other way around. And it's true, right? I mean, was it 85% of our decisions are emotional, not really logical? Unless you're Spock a Vulcan, you're not going to make logical decisions.
Well, it's actually your brain decides emotionally before it even gets to your frontal cortex. So you've decided before you're even consciously able to think. And so that's like the really interesting part about it is we think, and we've been trained to think that we're logical and we evaluate decisions in this way, but we are not.
See? No, I love all these topics, and especially the neuropsychology, right? Because it kind of connects the science with the other stuff. No, I think I agree. I agree with you 100%. We all should spend time, therapist or executive coach or both. It's worth the spend. I've done it myself, and I'm planning to do it with a couple of my people because I want them to succeed, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the company will succeed if they succeed. So to me, it's a no-brainer, right? It's a completely worth the investment, right? Even so, like AI, right? We were discussing this week about the spend that we're gonna incur turning Copilot on for 400 people, right? And I told them, look, just do the simple math. 20% productivity improvement to 400 people is like hiring 80 people with the cost of one. So even if it's not 20%, it's 10%. So let's be more conservative. That's still 40 people for the cost of one. So I think once we put it in those terms, everybody was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer, right? I think this conversation we're having is similar to that. It's like the throughput that you can increase, not alone just your happiness as a human being, is an extremely no-brainer investment to me to be able to go on and take some of that support from an executive coach and or a therapist, whatever the space you want to play in.
Well, so they're different, right?
Sure.
But you're right. For coaching, if you lead people, the ROI on executive coaching is like 700%. If you're just a solo individual contributor, the ROI is closer to 540%. And if you're a founder, especially in their first year, their revenue is 48% higher with a coach than without, and they're 35% more likely to succeed. So, yeah, I would totally recommend it. Of course, I'm biased, but I would recommend
it. Just look at, even if, having the data is great, but just look at it around, like, to me, the best example is sports, right? It's like you get all these high-end athletes, right? Like Formula One, MBA, you name it. They all have coaches, right? For physical and mental. I mean, and during the World Cup, Holland, the Norway guy, the Norwegian guy, he became a sensation too because of also the way that he performed, right? He has this amazing level of discipline, right? That it combines physical with mental and spiritual as well, right? Which we tend to dissipate because it's mambo jumbo, but it's part of who we are. It's part of being a human, right? And exercising. For me, the big thing right now is the sleep, because I've been having issues with it, and I can feel it. The issue. I'm actually just bought an Apple Watch, so I can actually start like tracking it to actually have data. I tried the Whoop, and I just didn't quite like it, but because I want to see the data, but I can feel it, right? I was actually on the fence of buying the Apple Watch because it's like, do I really want to see the data, or can I just feel it on my body? And I decided I want to see both. I want to see the data because I think I'm going to be biased on myself, but I can feel it. And obviously, food. I actually find it extremely funny, and probably I shouldn't be saying this because I don't know who's going to be listening to this podcast, but whatever. Like, people don't have lunch, or they skip lunch, or they skip meals. It's like, would you just keep putting gas in your car, like, or charging your car as an electric car? You wouldn't, right? Because you know it won't work. So why do you do that to yourself? I don't understand that, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not like, this is my third cup of coffee. So it's like, I'm not perfect. By the way, growing up in Colombia, I can drink as much coffee as in a day. It won't do anything to me anymore. But my point being is that I think sometimes we tend to undervalue some of these conversations, like the physical state and the spiritual state. Yes, I know that you probably don't want to have all those conversations at work. I get it. But you can have them outside of work with your family, with yourself, with your coach, with a friend even. And because it is important. Again, to me, it's just like no brainer. It's a no brainer.
100%. It's something that, like, obviously, like, I grew up as an athlete. I had coaches, of course, and the acceleration of development. I mean, I never would have been good at sports. Like, I had a swim coach, I had a water polo coach. I actually had multiple of both. But, right, it's like you had these different coaches to teach you different things. And that's where coaching and therapy is a little bit different. Is therapy is very much about healing past trauma and changing your emotional state, where coaching is very much focused around building your future and accomplishing your goals. And so there's a marginal crossover somewhere in the middle, but really coaching is very future focused. And so that's there's a little bit of crossover in some of the work that we do. However, there's a great quote in my book about this, where they talk about therapy is following the trail of tears and coaching is about chasing dreams, or something like that. I forget
That
the
makes
quote.
sense. I never thought it that way, but now that you say it like that, completely makes sense. It actually resonates. And I've done both, right? And because I think personally, I think you need both, right? We are all have our scars from growing up in whatever environment, and also I think we also choose our profession somewhat because of that. Like, I was thinking this with my wife the other day. It's like, engineers, we have this tendency to want to be the smartest person in the room, and is sometimes like ego driven. And I'm sure that everybody has a different path, but it's like I started reflecting, like, okay, well, how is that connected to the way that I was brought up, right? And yes, it worked out for me because it matched my talents too, so that was good. But as I talk to my kids, like, on what they want to do and the career and all sort of thing, I use that also as an element of, okay, how do I help them make the right, quote unquote, right choice towards the future, right? And what are the elements of the traumas and things that they probably didn't get it right that I want to help with, right? But I like how you put it, like, all the future thinking versus the past and some of the trauma. I love it. Actually like, I want to start using that moving forward. No, yeah, I actually like it a lot. I never thought about that way. I think though the intersection is because at the end of the day there is one you, right? I mean, the you being coach and the you under therapy is the same you. Yes, you might have another layer on top of it just because, again, there's an expectations at work and how you behave and all that sort of thing, but still you in the bottom, right? And to your point, our emotional brain is making some of the decisions early, and guess what? Emotional brain is trained by all these things. So you're fighting yourself at the end of the day. So yeah, that resonates a lot.
It's what you said about it is interesting. My founder, one of them yesterday, said to me the same thing. Is like, I've realized how much I've been fighting myself my entire life.
When I went through, one of my big ahas in executive coaching was, I'm the one that is putting the limits, right? I'm the one that is all in me, in me, and obviously the other element of this, and again, we don't talk about it a lot, is luck, right? There is a huge component of luck, which is the random element mathematically of humanity and where we live. I mean, would have been different if I would have been born here in the US and had different type of things that I didn't have growing up in Colombia? Probably, but who knows? Maybe, maybe not. But that's a factor, and we don't control those factors, right? So sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And again, back to what we were talking a while ago, is what's, to your question about what's the goal? Where do you want to be in? Because what if you find yourself with a bunch of money being very unhappy, right? Did you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? I don't know. I mean, it's up to you. It's up to every person to answer. But I think about those things a lot, right? Where is it what I want to get, and how do you define success, right? And lately it's been a lot because, again, my oldest son is 17, so he's starting to think about college and all that sort of thing, and it's like, I'm supposed to help him, right, and guide him. That's my job as a parent. It's like, shoot, I don't think I'm prepared for this. So I've been thinking a lot about this so I can actually be helpful to him.
I mean, this show is not biased, but he should go to MIT.
So he wanted to go to MIT when he wanted to be a mechanical engineer, but he's shifted now. He wants to do something that combines biology with engineering. So bioengineering apparently is a thing. I'm just not very well versed in it. So there was an MIT event. So it was MIT Club, South of Texas Club, organized an event with the medical, one of the medical things here in Houston, right? And Texas A&M is another sponsor. And apparently Texas A&M has this super cool program where it's a master's degree that combines bioengineering with MBA, right? It's like 3 years, right? So you actually get this super duper degree, but it's a master's degree. So you got to do something first, right? I've never been a super big fan of Texas A&M. Nothing against them. It's just, I don't have a lot of information about it. I think I always been more favored towards UT. When I was actually doing the due diligence for the EMBA, I actually consider UT. I went there and took a couple of classes, like, as a visitor, and I really enjoyed it. The campus is amazing. The professors were really, really good. So I really like it, but I'm biased. I already have all the t-shirts, so might as well just go and finish it up.
That's right. Edwin, it's been amazing to have you on the show. Of course, I've dropped your LinkedIn in the podcast notes. Is there anywhere else you want folks to find you?
No, LinkedIn is fine. WhatsApp would be the other place, but no, I think LinkedIn is the easiest. LinkedIn is also getting a little bit too polluted, right? So just because, if you're from the MIT family, obviously that gives you in my opinion, is just step in, right? But it doesn't hurt to just like a little introduction too. So also I know that it's not a salesperson pinging me, try to sell me something. But no, LinkedIn is the best way for sure. I'm there at least once a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're part of the community and you want to connect with Edwin, feel free to send me a note, rob@robkalwarowsky.com. Happy to make an introduction there. And yeah, it was amazing to chat. Everyone, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you for the invite, Rob.